What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor South Africa Season 8, Immunity Island, Episode 8. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and this episode was good. And I feel like we spent a lot of time this season of Survivor South Africa talking about things like we haven't liked as much about this season. So I, for one, am really excited to have a lot of positive things to say and just start the merge off on a high note, I guess.
I agree. I think this was the best episode of the season so far. Like, it was literally so good. Everything was up in the air. So many things could have gone wrong with all of these plans this episode. I was like super nervous, anticipating the outcome, just like on the edge of my seat, which is hard to do, I guess, but it was a really good episode. It kept you sort of guessing the entire way through, like, will this work or will it not work?
But I think one of the good things was the editing actually made sense where it was equally on both sides of like it might work or it might not work. Because I feel like sometimes in this season, we've talked about how the edit kind of makes it either really super obvious what's going to happen or really confusing about what's going to happen because you just miss entire like chunks of conversations. So it was nice that it felt really balanced this time.
And I think that could be because maybe the episode was a little bit longer. So it was like an hour and 5 minutes versus a 55-minute episode. So they had more time. So they were able to put more of those conversations in there. And it was just amazing. A double idol play, an advantage play, people double agenting, people acting, and you just have these plans and a blindside at the end of the day. And this tribal council, this vote, this plan just reminded me so much of David versus Goliath, where John was voted out because, I guess, minus the minority split vote. But even in David versus Goliath, you have like the jacket themes and Angelina throughout the season. And then at the end of this episode, Marisha gives Nicole her jacket.
It comes full circle. I feel like there were a lot of things in this episode that kind of reminded me of Survivor US, but we'll talk about them when we get to them. So
Yeah, it was totally insane. After two tribe swaps in this season, and you go into the merge, we were talking about it last week, predicting the merge, how it could have been 6-6 across OG lines, which we were saying last week. And it's just insane. After two tribe swaps, after OG tribes, and you come back to merge and it's OG tribes again, it's like, okay, so maybe you don't need 2-3 tribe swaps because people are at OG lines come merge still.
yeah, I feel like the reason that they have all the tribe swaps is so that people like have the chance to flip on their OG alliance if they want to. But at the same time, it's like you could do that with just one tribe swap instead of like two or more. So
Yeah, so that was interesting, and I think it'll be interesting to see in future weeks how this division holds. And I think because it wasn't a 6 or even like 7 or 8 because they thought they had extra votes and then they just voted out Warda or Chappies, I think it opens a lot of new can of worms going into the next few weeks where hopefully it isn't just a begonging, which is what we were afraid of last week coming into the merge. So we start this episode off where Marisha, she finds an idol in like a big tree, and it was just so ironic, so funny. She goes and she asks Rhaenyra, like, hey, come over and help me with something. Rhaenyra is then the person to grab the idol after Marisha actually knocks it out of the tree with a big stick. And then Marisha gets voted out later because of that idol.
yeah, I felt kind of bad for her, but also like if you didn't end up needing Rhaenyra's help in the first place, why did you bring him in on this, you know? So I felt kind of bad for her, but also not really. So
Just sort of funny how the thing comes full circle in one episode. And I think in her Thursday Night Outcast exit interview that she did, she was talking about how she did get a little bit ahead of herself asking someone else to help her, because I agree. I think Marisha, with that big stick, she could have totally gotten the idol for herself, and sort of negative that like she asks someone else and then she lets that other person in Rainier put the idol in his pants, and not, oh no, Rainier, like I spotted it first, let me hold on to it, but she let him hold on to it, which could have been the difference. Say Marisha was the person that found the idol and she was the one holding on to it, would she have still played it for Nicole if she was the one making the decision and not Rainier, or would she have just played it for herself? But it seems like she always wanted to tell the rest of her alliance about the idol so everyone would have known. So maybe it wouldn't have changed anything because Nicole would have asked for it still.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the smart things is I feel like of the people in her alliance, Marisha is probably like closest to Nicole or Amy. I can never remember their names. But so I think it was really smart on the part of the other side to make Nicole the target, since Nicole is kind of Marisha's right hand, because then it makes it a lot more likely that Marisha will want to play it for Nicole rather than for herself.
Spicy, spicy. Yeah. Rainier also has to share the information about the idol to everyone, because you can't keep it to yourself, like the information to yourself selfishly, especially if Marisha is the person that spotted it first and she wants to tell the rest of everyone in their group. So pretty much the five there with Sean, Marisha, Nicole, Amy, Rainier, they all knew about the idol. And then we'll talk about it later, but literally everyone knows where every advantage is this episode. So everyone knows about this Marisha idol, which later, just so funny that it didn't get played on her and she gets voted out, even though she technically found this idol.
Honestly, it's just kind of goes to show why in Survivor you want to keep the information that you have to yourself as much as humanly possible. So,
yeah, then Nicole wouldn't have asked for it, and then maybe she would have felt less bad if she kept it to herself, no Rainier in the picture there, and then she just played it for herself. So this episode is the merge. How exciting. And so we go into the merge feast. Everyone is there, 12 people, and there is some kind of rolled up clue underneath the drink bar area. Nobody spotted it throughout the entire merge feast. I thought maybe last week at the family portrait TV advantage or reward challenge advantage that there was going to be like a clue or advantage there at the family recordings, but alas, there were a lot of advantages in play, so it makes sense that they saved it for the merge. And now, since we got rid of a lot of advantages this episode, we will hopefully not have a too big of advantage get in later on.
yeah, I feel like one of the things is a lot of people were specifically looking for a clue too, so it kind of sucks that nobody found it when they were actually looking for it. So
didn't look in the right spots, apparently. And so I thought it was interesting how the table was set up. You know, it was in all a line of 12 seats rather than usually it's like a half square, you know, where you have people on the sides and then you have a line rather than just a full line. And so this setup, it made it easier to see who was sitting next to who was talking, because in a square, it's like everyone is talking to everyone, but in a straight line setup, you're only really talking to the few people next to you, which people noticed. Anesu, Santini got confessionals about this, but the three blonde women in Marisha, Nicole, and Amy all sitting together and all chatting and laughing.
yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things where everyone knows that the three blonde women are together, I think, so they didn't have to make it so obvious. But I guess one of the things about the line structure is that it's really easy to tell who's talking to who, but I guess it's also much harder to eavesdrop on conversations. And personally, that's one of my favorite things is like when people try to have private conversations, but they're not having them like quietly enough, and then the person next to them is like, so I heard everything, because that's just funny.
Yeah, and so with this, we see Marisha tell Santoni, like, oh, you're good. You probably have like 4 more votes until you get voted out. And that was just like such a LOL moment, kind of like, what did you mean by this? Because even if someone is on the bottom, you would never say this to anyone out loud because if you were smart, you wouldn't tell the people who are on the bottom that they're legit on the bottom. Like, oh, yo, you have 4 more votes. You're fine. You're at the top of the bottom, basically, because then those people at the bottom, if they're smart, they'll try to do something about it, which we saw this episode.
Yeah, why? That's my main thing, because it's just like you could lie and just be like, oh yeah, you're totally fine. But by giving it a number, it means you have thought about like where they're going to get voted out, you know? So
And yeah, literally a pagonging then. If you're fourth, it's like, oh, Warda, Chappies, Tyson, and Nesu, those are the people below you.
yeah, and so yeah, that's just a whole nother can of worms. I feel like there was a lot of social graces missing in this merge feast, because didn't Chappies also do something that was just like a dickish move that he got called out for?
Yeah, speaking of your eavesdropping, yeah, Chappies and Warda are talking. Chappies basically tells Warda about the family recordings at the reward challenge that they won last week, how they got to see their family members. And I don't know, I feel like personally, like Warda didn't have any issue with it. Like she wanted to hear the family reward, like hearing what other people got, but Sean overheard, and he was seemingly the person who has the most issues with it because he had a confessional at the merge feast, and then at the tribal council he also talks about how he disliked how Chappies brought it up to Warda about the family videos. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like it depends who he was talking to about it, if they took offense to it, but it didn't really seem like Warda took offense to it, and like she
I
didn't
don't
seem.
think that was the part that was bothersome though, because Sean said at Tribal that they had all agreed not to talk about it. And so it's like, it doesn't matter who you talk to about it if you said you weren't going to talk about it at all. So
Yeah, I guess, is that a problem? I feel like yes, because you break your word, but telling someone about a family reward, I'm like, who cares? Like, why do they keep bringing it up? Because it like literally doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's like Chappies could lie about so many worse things than telling someone about the family reward. I don't know. I was like,
I
I
feel
was
like
just
it's one of
question
those
mark for
things
Sean.
where Chappies just can never do anything right as far as these people are concerned, you know? Like,
Nitpicking.
yeah, they don't like anything that he does. So
Yeah, so I like, if Chappies was using it as like a malintent, as a way to manipulate Warda, then like yes, you're like, oh, that's questionable. Like we don't like that because we all agreed you weren't going to do that, and now you're manipulating her with this information. But later on, we also see like Chappies and Warda talking about it, and it didn't seem like it had ill intent behind his actions. And in this conversation, I was like, yes, kudos to Warda, because I thought literally she was going to dislike Chappie so much, how much she dislikes Smash, like we saw them fighting at tribal councils. But she was able to put that all aside and clean the slate and say that she wasn't going to write anyone off. But I was just so proud because I really thought she was going to hold grudges, and like the 6 minority weren't going to get together because of Warda. So I'm glad she was able to clean the slate.
yeah, because like when you're at the bottom, you can't hold grudges like that. Like obviously, it's not good to hold grudges no matter where you are in the game. Like even if you're the top dog, you still shouldn't be like going out for a vendetta. But like you said, it's really important that the 6 minority people get together. So I agree with you. It was great that Warda was able to like, I wouldn't say that they're friends, but able to like align herself with Chappies, because I feel like that was kind of the first step in the whole plan that got put into motion.
I agree, especially how much we've seen Warda say, we need to destabilize Chappies every single episode ever since the second tribe swap. It was good to see them come together, and if it was because of Chappies telling her about the family reward that they were able to maybe put the water under the bridge and come together, I'm like, then kudos for Chappies for telling that secret, even though they agreed not to tell, but like, I'm like, who's it hurt if someone wants to hear that information?
Exactly. So, aside from the merge feast shenanigans, there were more shenanigans happening, and it was a lot. I see why they had a longer episode for this episode, just because, like, aside from it being the first time we see all 12 people together, it's also just like so much was going on. Because one of the first things that Smash does when they get back to camp after the feast is start hiding the clues that he got when he went to Immunity Island. Because he had a trail of three or four clues, and they were ambiguous enough that they could have worked at like their home camp just as well as they worked on Immunity Island, because it was like the shelter is the way or whatever. So yeah,
I thought this was an interesting segment because it was funny. Okay, yeah, Smash is trying to trick people, which is in good faith because Smash is like, yeah, I'm so bored. I just want to have some fun out here. Versus like other people who hide clues, fake clues, with a malicious intent, trying to like shame someone or embarrass someone. I think that sort of maybe crosses some kinds of lines if you are, I don't know, thinking in different ways, I guess. Like some people would take offense to being tricked like that versus, oh, Smash has good intent. He just sort of wants to have fun. He's not purposefully trying to do it to make anyone feel bad or get embarrassed on national television kind of thing. So I like that. Like it wasn't a mean thing that he was doing.
it wasn't a mean thing, but it was just like you said, it was kind of funny because he just seemed to want to create chaos, and I respect that.
Like when he ate 2 of those nutrition bars and then there was only 7 out of 9. Like he's just a chaos creator, which is interesting. Like we were talking about the times when he went to Immunity Island, feels like we haven't really seen much of him. So to get this segment, which doesn't necessarily have impact on gameplay really, it's like a fun segment, so it's interesting. They're building more of his like character. He's a fun dude. He is playful and bored apparently. And so I thought it was smart of them to check the clues, the hiding spots at their merged beach to see, okay, make sure there's not actually a real idol hidden, and if you put these fake clues here, they'll actually lead someone to a real thing. So I thought that was really funny. I truly thought Chappies was going to find a real idol under the tribe flag because there was numerous shots of him digging under there, digging huge holes under the tribe flag. I really thought they're spending so much time on this segment. Chappies has to find something.
I think maybe it was just another let's make Chappies look bad thing. So
That's just so sad. I'm like, it would have been so funny if Chappies did find a real thing after Smash and Sean looked and they were like, oh, A-okay, there is no real thing here after these fake clues. And then Chappies does actually use the fake clues to find a real one. It would have been so funny. I hope it happens.
it would be funny, but I feel like it also would kind of defeat the point. You know, like the producers, I think, kind of let people go wild with fake clues because it's interesting gameplay wise. Like it's funnier when someone totally thinks they're gonna find something or like finds like a stick and believes it's an idol, you know? So I think it would have defeated the purpose if Chappies had found like a real clue.
Yeah, I guess it would have been funny circumstance that they're hiding fake clues, but production had already hidden a real idol in that exact same spot, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like weird coincidence. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, that would have been.
But yeah, Chappie skipped the second clue altogether and then he just went straight to the third clue and digging under the sign. So maybe Chappies will find something. Chappies also this episode is doing some funny, weird things. He is Tony 2.0 with these spy shacks. I think honestly, this merge episode has made Chappies grow on me. Chappies is such a great character. He's like hiding underneath the bunker, hiding in spy nests near the water well. And I am like, at first, he was a little bit too chaotic in that premiere episode where we were a little bit critical of him because he was doing too much, too quick. But I think he's a good kind of hectic. I'll be sad when he's voted out because he brings so much weirdness to the screen.
Yeah, I think he is, like you said, very much like Tony, but without like the strategy part that Tony used to win. So even the whole thing with the spy shack, like it seemed like they were deliberately referencing Tony. So that was pretty cool. I guess I'm still not a super huge Chappies fan just because it does seem like he's just kind of annoying in general, but that could also just be that the edit is kind of making him the villain. So
yeah, it does seem like the edit throughout the season, he's always either like been on the chopping block or his name has been in people's mouths for whatever reason. And even in this episode, people were like, yeah, Chappies is, we don't trust him because he's always looking for the idols. Why is he running around all of the time? And like weird stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's funny. Everyone else is so straight edge from the edit that we need a weird person out there.
I do feel like as far as chaos goes, there's other agents of chaos, but they're all very like calculated. Like this is exactly what I need to do to make my game move forward. Excuse me. And not just like I'm gonna be weird for the sake of being weird. So
oh my gosh, it's like that TikTok sound that is like, I'm just in a silly, goofy mood. That's Chappies.
Basically.
So we go into the immunity challenge, and this is the first individual immunity. You are on the tall poles. You have to hang on for as long as possible. Nico reveals the immunity necklace, and everyone is like, OMG. Alyssa, I looked at it and I was like, this is so dingy looking. It's so small and it looks like something that you would make at summer camp. Like it looks like a dyed macaroni necklace.
Right? Like,
okay,
I'm not sure why they were so impressed by it.
I literally thought like the little tassels on the side with the, I don't know, rope string, whatever, was a part of it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But it was just the blue thing. I don't know. It just looks so small.
Not good. Yeah,
okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Everyone had such a big reaction, and I was like, are we seeing the same thing?
Maybe they just like it because they really want to win immunity.
Yeah, not us from the comfort of our home. So
exactly.
I also thought it was interesting in the United States when they have this challenge, they have a ladder that you climb up to go to the top. Versus in this, Nico is just like, okay, we're starting, everyone climb up. So you could pick where you wanted to start. You could climb up all the way, or you could start at the bottom like Santoni, like only climb up one rung and then jump off right after that. Versus US, everyone starts at the top and then you have to come down if you want to get off or fall off like Michelle.
Yeah, I guess I feel like it's not so much a strategy thing as it takes longer if you have to ladder everyone up, right? I don't know, though.
They don't have 12 ladders, I guess, to use simultaneously.
The Survivor South Africa budget does not cover 12 ladders. It only covers 1 or 0.
Yeah, so I guess it could be a safety thing, too. If you laddered everyone up and then, like, their grip gives out, they're falling. Feet
or also
from the ground.
Like if you ladder everyone up, the person who gets to the top first, like climbs the ladder the fastest, then has a slight disadvantage because it's like, yeah.
That's why you need 12 ladders, and then Nico will say, everyone get off your ladder right now. So your slow ladder climbers aren't disadvantaged or advantage because they got on slower.
Yeah. But this immunity challenge was interesting because going into it, basically Chappies was like, I have to win this or I'm going home. And then he obviously didn't win it. And so I feel like this is where like the plot of the episode, so to speak, really picks up. And I guess for me, the part where I knew that like Chappies wasn't going to go home was when he was like, "Oh, I'm definitely going home if they don't win. If I don't win." Because I feel like in Survivor, anytime someone declares like, "Oh, I'm going home if I don't win," or "This person is going home if they don't win," like that never ends up happening. Like if you have to make a point of making it a declaration, it's not going to happen. I know about Survivor editing.
Yeah, I'm like, it's an editing thing. Like, oh, you're rising to the climax of the episode and then the falling action and whatnot. But pre individual immunity, they build up some character like, oh, we're for sure voting this person out. And then it causes drama when that person wins immunity. Then you're like, OMG, what are they going to do now? Kind of thing, falling action before the end. But I thought it was interesting. This challenge, over 3 hours, people lasted from the reward challenge where Nicole won the margarita, the pina colada, I guess she changed it to. I thought Tyson and Nicole would be good at the balance because it was down to them two. The last time they had some kind of balance mental challenge. So I was thinking it could put a target on their back because they both lasted quite a long time again. I thought Anesu would be good because of her yoga background. I am surprised Kieran did so well. I did not expect that from him.
Yeah, he was kind of like an out of left field person, but I'm happy that he did well. It was nice to see a little bit more of him, even though I feel like we still didn't see him much this episode. But I feel like we learned more about him as a player a little bit, and then also more about the relationship between him, Anesu, and Tyson because of them being the final three, and then the way they like were able to step down so that Kieran was the winner.
Agreed. Kieran has a wonderful plan that they need to send Tyson to Immunity Island so their minority group can get the extra safety, get the idol to bequeath to someone else. It was good that Kieran won over Anesu, I think, because if Anesu did win and send Tyson to Immunity Island, I think that would raise more red flags with the Rainier majority group about like, oh, we thought Anesu was with us. Why is she sending Tyson? Maybe she's not really with us. I think it could have given up some of her double agent status. So it was honestly better for Kieran to win. And they could save more people in their alliance because Kieran would get the necklace for winning individual immunity. They would have an extra idol to bequeath to someone. And yeah, Tyson gets sent and then he goes to Immunity Island and decides to come back to camp. So he saves his vote and he can vote at Tribal, but he has the idol to give to someone else.
Yeah, I feel like this was really smart because they had, I guess, essentially three people in their alliance immune, but they only needed to use one immunity idol to do it. And so that's one of the things that I'm still kind of unsure of about Immunity Island, though. Just like the fact that it basically makes two people immune at any given time is kind of like, eh. But yeah.
It'll be interesting to keep seeing because now we know, okay, the winner of the immunity challenge gets to send the person of their choice to go to Immunity Island. So you could have one of your allies lose their vote, but they get some kind of really good advantage because they win the game, or they get a disadvantage, which is bad. But it'll be interesting, like if your alliance has more challenge threats, challenge beasts, your team would start to collect all of the either no votes or all of the advantages if they happen to be good at the mini game that they get that day. So it'll be interesting, like who keeps winning immunity and then who they are sending to Immunity Island each week.
Yeah, which is why I'm kind of bummed that like Immunity Island, the winner always gets to pick. Like it would be fun if it alternated between like the winner gets to pick and it's a random hat draw or something like that. Just because I feel like it almost gives the winner too much power if they also get to pick who goes to Immunity Island. I feel like we said that also with the different islands in Survivor US and then also with fire tokens. So
Yeah, I think with the individual immunity winner winning the ability to send someone to Immunity Island, it's sort of like 5 people on the tribe are ever going to win. You know, you can sort of see, oh, certain people are probably never going to win at the individual immunity, so they'll never get that advantage.
yeah, which kind of sucks, but It is what it is. It would be cool if there were other ways to also like win, but who knows?
So we go back to camp. Santoni is telling everyone about Tyson having an idol. Santoni has a confessional saying that she's mad at Tyson for not thanking her for getting him 2 idols because of the Paul Tyson whispering at the challenge, and then Santoni basically giving Tyson a second idol. And so she says she doesn't feel bad for telling people. And I was like, that's sort of funny, you know, she's very like backstabbery right now. So like good for her. She's playing the game, and it actually turned out that her having such loose lips actually worked in her favor this episode because it allowed her to double agent, because then everyone like the Rainier group trusted her because she was like throwing Tyson under the bus.
Yeah, I think it did work in her favor, but I feel like she's gonna need to learn how to like rein it in, because she's, even though it worked in her favor this time, I don't think that Tyson is all that happy with it, and I don't think that her like alliance ended up being that happy with it either. Like they used it because that was what they had to use, but I think next week they're gonna have a serious discussion about like, hey, you can't do that again. So
Yeah, like this week, because of the circumstances, it was better that everyone in the minority knew that he had an idol, so then they could play the idol in the way that they played it at tribal council to allow the minority to get some kind of advantage. And I guess we're saying minority because it's even though it's like 6-6 with Smash's advantage, it's more like 6-5 technically. So we're saying the Tyson group is the minority, even if it is 6-6 technically. But yeah, I think it worked out in her favor, but definitely it could have gone many other ways if things were going differently. And if the minority group didn't get together, they could have just been like, Santoni, why do you keep blabbing? Let's flip the vote and vote her out, rather than like, oh, everyone knows I have the idol, we need to band together, rather than turn on one of our minority people.
I think it'll be interesting to see if the minority kind of stays together or not, just because it seems like this was a very temporary thing to make the majority less threatening. Mm-hmm. And so now that they have the numbers, I think it could be very easy for them to all turn on each other. But I guess we'll have to see next week where that goes.
I agree. I don't think this 6 with Chappies, Warda, and them is going to last. It was more of like a temporary thing. We have to do what we need to do so we can get some numbers and not just get pagonged literally off of the island. So we also see Anasu and Santoni. Kudos to them. They were doing such an amazing acting job, double agenting, giving all of the fake information. And it raised the question like, oh, the Rainier group trusts these two way too much, seemingly. Like, where did this trust come from? They were on the same camp with Anasu for the past few days after the second tribe swap, but some of these people have like never even met Santoni before. Like Santoni only really knows Smash and Sean. So like them trusting these two to vote their way and to feed them correct information, maybe that was a downfall on the Rainier group, because like you barely know these two girls.
Yeah, basically. But I think it's interesting the way the information kind of got disseminated. And I feel like I mentioned this earlier, but this was also a really good plan. Like I feel like they could have come up with a worse plan that wouldn't have worked. So
yeah, and the double agenting, like Anasu and Santoni are going to vote with the Rainier group to pretend they're still with the Rainier group, and then at Tribal they're going to, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was going to happen, like, oh no, what is happening kind of thing, and faking it, so they're not actually going to like vote with the Tyson group, which Santoni did vote with Tyson and Anasu did vote with Rainier, maybe because they got a little bit nervous at Tribal, but them bluffing was just so good. And I was like, wow, such a good plan. And then to bluff like that, it was like, yes, feed them all the fake info.
Yeah. A side note about Anasu that I feel like is important to mention is that she lets all of the chickens go. It's not on purpose, because originally it sounded like she wanted to just tie them to like a post in the camp with like a string around their leg and then let them wander. but then the
Mm-hmm.
string breaks, and then we had this whole montage of them trying to catch the chicken. And I feel like maybe this is just me, but I feel like in US Survivor, the chickens will like stay around camp, right? Like, am I making that up? I feel like chickens will stay if there's like food for them.
That's what
So,
I thought. Like, they could be little pets without leashes.
yeah, but I guess not. But also, chasing them around doesn't really help them become more settled.
Yeah. So I thought this chicken scene was interesting because it really felt like the catalyst for Anesu being mad at Marisha, because after the chickens get loose, we see Marisha throw Anesu under the bus like, "Oh yeah, Anesu, because she's vegan, let all the chickens go," sort of implying like, "Oh, Anesu meant to do this on purpose," whereas we saw, Anesu just wanted to let the chickens have some more space so they weren't so cooped up in the cage all of the time. But it just felt like because Marisha said that, even if it wasn't really her intention to like have that, like tone or whatever, like, oh, she did it on purpose kind of thing, Anesu took it that way, and it just created more cracks. And then it made Anesu be like, oh, Marisha, I don't really like you because why would you throw me under the bus like that? So I felt like that was the catalyst that we saw in the episode for switching the target off of Chappies and Warda and onto Nicole and Marisha for the minority group. So I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I like that we were shown why it kind of happened that way, because I feel like in previous episodes they've switched around the vote and we've kind of been like, but why? So,
Yeah, which even if this chicken thing was not the real reason why like Anesu started to dislike Marisha, why other people wanted to vote for her over like Nicole or Amy, if they wanted to split up the blonde trio, like at least they gave us some reason for why the vote flipped.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's the thing that I've been missing a lot this season. Like, a lot of logic has been missing. But we had
Mm-hmm.
it, so that's good.
So going into the voting plan, we see Tyson tells Santoni we should vote Marisha, but Santoni, you need to go and tell the Rainier group we're voting Nicole as like a bluff, so they can play the idol and then vote someone out. The Rainier group wouldn't be able to play the idol correctly because they are being fed false information. And I was just so freaking glad this episode that the minority realizes that they're on the bottom and they are willing to take a risk and do something about it to try to change their fate in the game. Because I feel like so many times in Survivor, any Survivor version, we see where the minority says and realizes they're on the bottom, but they don't do anything about it. And it really reminded me of like Island of the Idols, where Dean is like not wanting to vote with the minority, even though it's like, yo, dude, you are on the bottom, so do something about it. I was just so happy that they realized and were going to take a risk, but just so stressed because so many things could have gone wrong.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons the minority was able to take a risk was because they had so much protection at their disposal. Like, there was 6 of them, and 3 of them were immune or safe in some way. And I feel like that's a really good place to start when you're looking for, excuse me, making a big move. Like, they're able to make a big move because they know that it's probably not going to backfire, or there's less of a chance of it backfiring than there normally would be. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous that the Rainier crew would like get some kind of inkling that things were off, and then like we saw it a little bit that, oh, maybe they're going to switch the vote off of Chappies and then vote Tyson actually, but because they think Tyson might play the idol for Chappies, and then Tyson would play the idol for Chappies, and Tyson would get voted out while playing the idol for someone else. I was like, so many things could have gone wrong. It was so stressful.
There was a lot of moving parts, but I feel like they really only mentioned maybe switching the vote to Tyson as like a red herring, just because everyone really wanted Chappies out. And I feel like they wouldn't miss their chance to get Chappies out. So,
Which, like we were mentioning earlier, could be another downfall of the Rainier group. First, trusting Santoni and Anesu so much, believing all of their information that Nicole was going to be the person voted out, and then sticking with Chappies, because we also see Amy and Nicole, they express nervousness about the vote. They're a little bit like queasy, what's happening. Sean also expresses some worry. So good for them. They had their spidey senses tingling. And Nicole says she thinks Warda, Anesu, Santoni could be lying. She was correct about that. And then we see them asking Rainier to play the idol for Nicole. And basically, it's Rainier and Smash telling everyone, you don't need to worry. Everything will be okay. Like, let's stick to the plan. And I just wonder, like, them being so confident here, which could just be also like, okay, it's getting close to tribal council. If we switch something now, it's going to get messed up because we don't have enough time to like talk through everything. So let's just stick to the plan. But I wonder if they actually got voted out or idled out this episode, if Rainier or Smash actually got voted out and it wasn't Marisha going home, like, would they have thought differently? Because it's gotta suck. Like, if Marisha also had those spidey senses, like something was wrong, and then no one was going to listen to her, and then she ends up getting voted out because no one wanted to listen.
Yeah, it's very different when it's your life that's on the line.
100% feels bad. So we see Sean is right. He was saying Tyson will probably play the Immunity Island necklace for Warda and then give the Hidden Immunity Island the Hidden Immunity idol to Chappies. So Sean hit the nail on the head right there. And yeah, then I thought maybe they would switch the votes because multiple people had their spidey senses tingling, but it seemed like Rainier and Smash really shut that down. So I sort of wish one of them were voted out just so, you know, they shut it down and it was their head on the line.
I feel like this is going to play out badly for them in the future, though, because I feel like Amy and Nicole might be like, you told us to like stay in line and now one of our biggest allies is gone, even though we told you that we were nervous. Mm-hmm. So it could be a fracturing of the majority, which would be super fun because then everyone would kind of be not super strongly associated because the current minority isn't like die hard for each other. And if the majority breaks apart, then that would be a really fun shuffle to see happen. Like who falls in line with who after all of the blindsiding and betrayals.
I agree. I think because that Rainier, like Amy, Nicole, Marisha, Smash, Sean group is seemingly so close, they need to break up. Otherwise, it's just like, it's such a big voting block. If you can't break them up, like it's so hard to get past that.
Exactly.
So we go to tribal council, and a lot of people had good acting at tribal council, faking it. Sean brings up the Chappies telling about the family reward thing again. But I was like, Sean is so mad at that, but then he tells the entire tribe what the reward was. Chappies told one person. Sean told everyone. So isn't it really Sean's fault?
Who knows what the logic was there? Because I don't.
So Warda is saying, yeah, Chappies, it hurt me so much when you told me about the family reward, but it seemed like she was acting there to sort of put a bluff up, like, oh yeah, me and Chappies aren't close, no need to switch any votes or anything, like I hate Chappies kind of thing. So good acting on her. Kieran is safe from winning the individual immunity. Tyson, like we were saying, plays the Immunity Island necklace for Warda. Smash has the tribal insurance and he steals Chappie's vote. So Smash votes once because he had a no vote originally. And then everyone goes to vote. Tyson plays the hidden immunity idol for Chappies. And then Nicole is like, Rainier, play this for me. A la Angelina asking in David vs. Goliath for the idol. And Rainier plays it for Nicole.
Rip. I guess just like one thing I did like about this tribal was that the advantage get-in happened earlier in the season than we have seen it sometimes. I feel like sometimes people hold on to their idols too long. So even though Rainier played his idol incorrectly, it's still like it's good that the idol was played, I feel like.
I agree. With so many advantages being played this week, there is really only one advantage left, and that is Anesu's leave the tribal council advantage, the Jeremy advantage, where she can just leave whenever. So I think that's the only thing left in play. Plus, you'd get someone safe, like we were saying. An extra person is safe every week with Immunity Island. So better to have all of the things being flushed now so they don't come up later. But I really thought Rainier had such a long pause when Nico was like, "Who are you playing it for?" I really thought Rainier might decide not to play it or maybe switch the person he was going to play it for, because a lot of previous survivors have said, oh, they'll stand up and then they'll look at the reactions of the other people sitting down. And if their reactions are like, OMG, when someone is going to play it, then they'll know that they're making the right decision. Versus if everyone is smiling and they don't have good poker faces when you're going to play it, then you maybe don't play it or you play it for someone else, because then you can sort of get an inkling oh, maybe the vote wasn't for me. And so I thought maybe he was looking at people's reactions and was going to switch.
I feel like the whole reading reactions thing would make me nervous because I would double think it and triple think it. But I guess they must have had good poker faces, or Rainier was just really unsure of himself. So,
yeah,
honestly, I'm happy that it went the way it did. I'm glad that he followed his plan rather than trying to switch it up. So,
I agree. Looking at reactions, you could have some reverse psychology where people get just messed with you so much. It's so scary. But Marisha in the TNO interview said that she was thinking maybe she wanted to play the idol for herself, because she was technically it is my idol, and she was going to ask Rainier to play it for her. But she said she didn't want to look selfish asking for the idol and taking it away from Nicole, which turns out maybe she should have been selfish.
Yeah, I feel like Survivor, you have to be selfish, otherwise you don't survive. So, sucks to suck, I guess. I feel bad because, we've been saying, it's not really her fault. But I do wonder about, possession rules of Survivor idols, because I personally think the whole, the person who touches it owns it thing is kind of dumb. But whatever.
Should have pushed Rainier over. No, dude, that's my idol.
Yeah, I found it. Ground.
Yeah, give it to me. It's mine. Put it in my pants. So Marisha gets voted out. I wish we did see more of her, because I feel like all we really know of Marisha is that she would have been a beast in these individual immunity challenges. She's obviously super athletic and really buff, but it seems okay, why was Marisha actually the target if they wanted to get one of the blonde women out? Why not Nicole? Why not Amy? Was it because Marisha is super physically strong and they wanted to vote her out because of that? It's not just the chicken thing. So it's why was she the biggest target out of those three?
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where the edit kind of doesn't really give answers to questions that we have, but also I feel like these are questions we have because we're used to looking at Survivor more deeply than I would say the average viewer is. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, for storyline purposes, dislike the chicken thing. Oh, now Marisha's the target because of the chicken thing. It makes it a linear story easier to tell versus whatever the real reason was that they were going to vote her out for. But
I mean, it's possible that is just the real reason. They equally didn't care about which of the three blonde girls went home, and then Anesu was like, well, since Marisha bothered me about the chickens, we're going to vote for her. So
yeah, combination of the chickens and telling Santini you're out fourth from now. It could have been little things like that adding up, which maybe that's what the editors wanted us to grasp with this. But after the tribal council, Sean is really pissed off. It was weird because you could hear Sean talking in the background, but it was when everyone was standing up to pick up their torches to go back to camp, he says something along the lines of oh, that's the kind of person you voted out? Okay, game on. So he's pissed off, and we see it in the preview for next week, him being really pissed off.
Which is weird because I don't really understand why he's so mad.
Yeah, just be glad it wasn't you. Like, they could have totally targeted one of the three men in Sean, Smash, or Rainier, and he could have gone home. I would have been so nervous sitting at that tribal council, because if they didn't get the Nicole name correct, you're getting voted out.
It's especially weird because it's not like they were shown to be particularly close, I feel like. So, c'est la vie, I guess.
So it'll be interesting to see why Sean is so mad next week. I am really excited because it's not really a 6-5 split, I think, because with this vote, I think the game has opened up a lot more now, and it's not going to be a straight pagonging, hopefully. But next week in the preview, it's going to be some weird tribe vote split, like the teams, they get split in half and maybe both have to go to tribal and each vote one person out. So 2 people may be going home next time. It's like a hot mess. They need to stop. Don't do this.
Yeah, I feel like the whole, like, 2 people get voted out doesn't work if you try to do it in, like, a team way. I don't like that.
Yeah, and it's like, why did you merge? You could have just had one more extra pre-merge boot where they were in teams already.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess I'm still excited for next week, even with the weird teams thing, just because I feel like the editing of this episode made me hopeful that the rest of the season could, like, pick up and be slightly better edited, especially now that they don't have to split time between multiple tribes. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we start seeing more storylines emerge for people, because I feel like that's kind of how you can tell who's going to win, by, like, who gets the best story. And right now I feel like no one really has a strong story except for just, like, who they like and dislike. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
I'm a little bit nervous with this teams thing because it looked like they were drawing rocks or stones or whatever. And so if the teams become so, like, I guess lopsided, where you have 5 versus 1 or something, it's like all Rainier's 5 people and, like, Chappies. Oh, yeah, Chappies is 100% getting voted out of that half tribe. Like, it's so obvious. It's like when Ghost Island, when they split, and it's like terrible. So if it's like 3-3 or 3-2 for the teams, okay, fine, because then it makes it a little bit more spicy. But if it's like 5-1, I'm like, you just death sentence the person. There's no way they're going to not get voted out there.
Yeah, it's like getting swap screwed, except for team screwed. But
yeah,
we'll have to see if that comes to pass. As always, we love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Please let us know what you thought. Did you like the editing of this episode? Were you upset to see Marisha go home? Who do you think is in a good position going forward into the merge? Let us know all that and all your other thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you guys